Whispers of the Luminous Vale. Part 1. The Door Beneath the Stillness. The world had grown too loud for Seraphina. The city's constant hum, the endless notifications, the pressure to do more, be more, it all wrapped around her like thick smoke. Every breath felt heavier. Every moment, a demand. She longed for stillness. Not just silence, but that ancient, secret quiet that lives only in forgotten places. So one night, without planning or packing, she left. She didn't even tell anyone. She took the last train out of the city, its windows fogged by night and tired hearts. She rode until the map no longer made sense, until the names of towns sounded like dreams and the stars above the train blinked brighter, like they recognized her. She got off at a station with no name. There was no one waiting. Just the gentle breath of trees, swaying softly in the wind. And it felt like something was calling her. Not with words, but with warmth. With memory. With something she couldn't explain. She walked. Through the sleepy village where no one stirred, down a path lit by fireflies instead of streetlights, and into a forest that felt impossibly still. Not dead, but dreaming. The moon hung low, caught between branches, and her feet found the trail as if they already knew it. Then, ere she saw it, a door. Standing alone in the middle of a small clearing, draped in ivy, outlined by stones that shimmered faintly with dew and starlight. It wasn't attached to a house or a wall, just a single door, deep blue, carved with swirling symbols that pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Her heart stuttered. And yet, she stepped forward. As her fingers touched the handle, cool and smooth like polished river stone, a breeze stirred the leaves, and a voice not heard with ears whispered through her bones. "Welcome home, little light." The door creaked open, not by her strength, but by invitation. Inside was not inside. It was the Vale. She stepped into a forest bathed in impossible light. The trees were taller than any she had ever seen, their bark silver and smooth, their branches heavy with lantern-like blossoms that glowed gently, pulsing in rhythm with the earth. Soft moss welcomed her feet like velvet. The air smelled of lavender, moonflower, and something older, the kind of scent you remember from a dream but cannot name. Above her, the sky shimmered in hues of periwinkle and rose gold, scattered with slow-moving stars. A stream wound quietly through the grove, its water sparkling not with light, but with memory. Tiny glowing shapes flickered beneath its surface, a girl's laugh, a dancing flame, a promise made beneath a willow. She exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. The weight she had carried, the noise, the doubt, the shame, slipped from her shoulders like an old cloak. And then, she heard the whispers. They didn't scare her. They curled around her like soft hands in the dark. They were not voices, but impressions, reminders. You are not lost. You are becoming. You are worthy. You are enough. Tears came gently. She didn't sob, she just breathed. And in that breath, she felt whole. Then a figure emerged from the trees. Not sudden, not loud, just present. A woman in a flowing gown made of woven dusk and starlight. Her hair shimmered like river glass, and her eyes held centuries, but they crinkled kindly when she smiled. "Seraphina," she said, her voice as soft as falling petals. "You've come." The door beneath the stillness. Seraphina blinked. Her name, spoken by a stranger in this surreal realm, made her chest tremble. "You know me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman stepped closer, her gown flowing like mist across the mossy floor. "I know your heart," she said. "That is more than enough." Seraphina felt no fear, only awe. The air buzzed with something gentle and ancient, like lullabies sung by the earth itself. "I don't understand where I am," as she said quietly. "You are in the Vale," the woman replied. "A sanctuary for those who've forgotten their light and are ready to remember." She reached into the folds of her gown and drew out a small crystal vial, filled with shimmering liquid that pulsed softly with light. "This," she said, "is a drop of your own remembering. Drink, and we shall begin." Seraphina took the vial carefully. It felt warm in her hand, like holding someone's palm. She brought it to her lips, and the moment the liquid touched her tongue, a wave of softness, not shock, spread through her body. Her vision blurred, but not in fear, more like dream water washing over her thoughts. She saw herself as a child, barefoot in a garden, speaking to bees. Her mother, humming to herbs as she stirred them in a pot. A moment she had buried, crying in the school bathroom after being told her dreams were too strange. But in this vision, she no longer felt the sting. She felt compassion. She saw the little girl and wanted to protect her. She wanted to remind her, "You are not too strange. You are beautifully different." The vision faded. The woman smiled. "You are ready to begin your walk, Seraphina." "My walk?" The woman gestured toward the forest. A path unfurled, paved with soft petals and glowing runes. Along its edges were floating lanterns, hovering gently in the air like sleepy fire spirits. "Each step will reveal a truth," the woman said. "Each truth will heal a wound." Seraphina looked at the path. It didn't scare her, it welcomed her. "What's your name?" she asked the woman. The woman smiled. "Names are soft things here. But if it helps, you may call me Selenia." Selenia raised a hand, and the trees whispered. "Walk until you reach the lake," she said. "There, the water will show you what you carry that is not yours." And with that, she was gone, melted into the breeze like a dream just before waking. Seraphina stepped forward. Each footfall felt guided by the heartbeat of the Vale. Flowers bloomed in her wake, tiny and shy, as if the ground itself was grateful for her presence. As she walked, she began to notice shapes among the trees. Some were animals, a silver fox with eyes like starlight, a deer whose antlers carried vines blooming with night roses. Others were memories. She passed a figure crouched beneath a tree, a younger version of herself, trying to fit into a world that never made room for softness. This younger Seraphina looked up, but did not seem surprised to see her. "You kept going," the younger one whispered. Seraphina nodded, her heart aching with tenderness. "I'm still here," as she said softly. "And I remember you now." The younger Seraphina faded, leaving behind a trail of bluebells that chimed like tiny bells in the breeze. Deeper into the forest, the path changed. Now it sparkled with golden dust, not glitter, but light that had forgotten where it belonged. She reached a clearing where wind chimes hung from invisible branches. They played melodies shaped by emotion, and each one evoked a different feeling. One sounded like courage, another like forgiveness. One, when struck, made her cry without knowing why, and then feel lighter for having done so. Then she saw the lake. Still, wide, reflecting not just her face, but her spirit. She knelt beside it. The water shimmered and then darkened, only to reveal images from her life. Moments where she had dimmed her voice to avoid judgment. Times when she had smiled while breaking inside. Dreams she had crumpled to fit in. She watched without shame. The veil didn't judge. It only revealed. A gentle voice rose from the water, her own voice, older, steadier. You were never broken. You were only buried beneath expectation. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She whispered, I want to remember who I was before the world taught me who to be. A ripple crossed the lake. A small boat appeared, wooden, carved with moon phases, and waiting. She stepped in. The water glowed beneath her as the boat drifted forward on its own. No oars. No destination she could see. Just trust. And starlight. The boat moved as if guided by a song too ancient for memory, yet deeply familiar to the soul. Seraphina sat in silence, cradled by the soft curves of the moon-carved vessel. The water whispered beneath her, not in words, but in gentle affirmations she felt rather than heard. You are not late. You are not lost. You are arriving. The trees on either side of the glowing river grew stranger, more radiant, their trunks glowing softly from within, their leaves humming with a soft, crystalline tone, like chimes stirred by moonlight. Soon, the river widened into a mist-shrouded inlet. The boat slowed and kissed the shore, as if it knew this was her stop. She stepped out onto the silken moss, her bare feet sinking slightly into its softness. The air was cooler here, rich with the scent of wild honey and rain on stone. Somewhere nearby, a slow harp-like tune drifted through the air, played not by fingers, but perhaps by wind passing through crystal branches. Seraphina followed the music. She moved through tall reeds dusted with soft light, her fingers grazing their tips. And then, she saw him. He was standing beneath an enormous tree with a canopy that looked like woven twilight. He held a curved instrument carved from some shimmering wood, part harp, part lyre, and was coaxing slow, haunting melodies from its strings. He didn't stop when she approached. He didn't turn to look. Instead, he simply said, I was wondering when you'd arrive. His voice was warm, low and soft like velvet draped in candlelight. Seraphina tilted her head. You knew I was coming? I didn't know, he said. But the veil whispered. And I listened. Now he turned. He was not dazzling, not in a way that would make her guard rise. His presence was, gentle. He looked like he belonged to the forest, moss-toned tunic, hair the color of autumn bark, eyes that shimmered like river stones in moonlight. I'm Selim, he said, bowing slightly. Caretaker of this glade. Listener of lost things. She almost smiled. Seraphina. I know, he said. The veil rarely brings someone here without reason. He gestured for her to sit beside him, and she did, not out of obedience, but because it felt like the right place to be. The moss beneath the tree was warmer, the air quieter, as if sound itself bowed to the sacred hush between them. You've seen the lake, Selim said softly. She nodded. And you left some of what you carried there, he continued, not as a question, but a knowing. I did, she said. But I'm still full of echoes. Selim's fingers played another chord, one that seemed to match the ache in her voice. The echoes fade, he said. Not because they are erased, but because they are heard. At last. They sat in silence after that. A silence that wasn't empty, it was companionable. Healing. A silence that held space. After a time, he set down his instrument. There's a cabin just through those trees, he said. Built for those who come here to rest. There's tea, blankets, books with pages that hum lullabies. He smiled faintly. No one will ask anything of you there. No fixing. No performing. Just your breathing. Seraphina felt tears press at her eyes again, not from pain, but from kindness. Will you be there? She asked. He looked surprised. Then gentle. If you'd like. She paused. I would. He stood and offered her his hand. She took it. It wasn't electric. It was safe. The cabin was made of pale wood that smelled of sun and salt and stories. Tiny lights danced along its roof, and the front door opened with a slow exhale, as if even the home breathed at its own peaceful rhythm. Inside, the space glowed with soft amber warmth. Cushions spilled across the floor. Shelves lined with books written in stardust ink. A fireplace that crackled without flame, fueled by memory, not wood. Selim brewed something fragrant, calming herbs and moon petals, and handed her a cup. She took a sip, and the warmth wrapped around her chest like a hand over the heart. They sat by the hearth, wordless again. Only the sound of steam and heartbeat and something else. A gentle beginning. A connection not of fire, but of presence. Selim spoke, finally. The veil doesn't just bring people to heal. It brings people together when it's time. Seraphina looked at him. I'm afraid, as she whispered. Of trusting. Of needing. That's all right, he replied. You can be afraid. I'll sit with you in it. She nodded. The room felt safe. Not perfect. Not unreal. Just soft. Like a dream where you finally feel seen. That night, Seraphina slept on a bed of velvet moss beside the hearth. Outside, soft rain kissed the leaves. Inside, the cabin glowed with the same pale blue warmth that seemed to breathe with her. No nightmares came. Only images that felt like soft invitations. A hand reaching through mist. A door opening in the sky. A lantern floating down a river that led not to danger, but to memory. When she woke, Selim was already outside, brewing tea again beneath the twilight blooming trees. His movements were slow, reverent, like everything he touched mattered. She stepped out barefoot, greeted by the hum of the forest and the hush between heartbeats. You slept, he said without turning. I did, she answered. Like I hadn't in years. He smiled, eyes gentle. The veil knows when we're ready to rest. They drank tea beneath a flowering vine that opened only at dawn. The petals released a light fragrance, something between lavender and memory. Selim pulled a small scroll from a carved box beside him and handed it to her. "From Selenia," he said. Seraphina unrolled it. The ink shimmered in soft moon silver script. "Your light remembers its shape. The path will call you deeper when you are ready. Next comes the Temple of Echoing Flame. There, the artifact sleeps beneath your name." She looked up. "The artifact?" Selim nodded slowly. "Each traveler carries a thread of it inside them. But the pieces are ancient, hidden in places where only the brave of heart and soft of soul may tread." He paused. "You'll need strength, but not the kind the world taught you. Not steel, not fire, but stillness, listening, forgiveness." She swallowed. "And you?" She asked. "Have you been to the temple?" A shadow passed across his face, not fear, but reverence. "Once. I wasn't ready then." Silence lingered between them, not awkward, but sacred. Then Seraphina spoke, her voice quiet. "Come with me." He blinked. "You said the veil brings people together when it's time. Maybe this is time." He hesitated, searching her face. Then he nodded, not as a man persuaded, but as one who'd been waiting to hear those words. Together, they walked deeper into the forest. The air shifted, not heavier, but older. They passed trees shaped like spirals, stones carved with forgotten languages, and ponds where moonlight moved beneath the surface like fish made of glow. Seraphina's steps grew more certain. Her breath matched the rhythm of the path. And Selim? He didn't lead. He walked beside her, matched her pace, held silence when she needed space, and presence when she needed grounding. At the foot of a great cliff carved with symbols, they stopped. There, embedded in the stone, was a door. It wasn't obvious. It appeared only when Seraphina placed her hand on a faded engraving that looked like a feather wrapped in flame. The stone pulsed, and the door opened inward with a sigh. Inside, a long hallway spiraled downward. The Temple of Echoing Flame was not fire and destruction. It was warmth, a womb of stone, lit not by torches, but by memories. On each wall, glowing scenes of lives that had passed through the veil. Not in tragedy, but in transformation. Seraphina watched one wall shimmer with a memory of herself, a vision of the girl who once buried poems under her mattress, afraid someone would laugh. She reached out. The image melted into her palm like fog. And then, at the heart of the temple, they reached the chamber. In the center, a pedestal. On it, a small box made of mirrored stone. Seraphina stepped forward. Selim held back, his presence like a calm tide at her back. She touched the box. It opened with no resistance. Inside was light. Pure, gentle, whispering. Not blinding, but soft, like a lantern in winter. It poured upward, not into the air, but into her chest. And Seraphina knew. This was not something she had found. It was something she had remembered. Her inner fire. her voice, her knowing. She gasped, not in pain, but in relief. And in that moment, the temple sang, low and harmonic, like stone and star joined in one sound. When it faded, Selim stepped forward. He placed his hand over his heart and bowed. "Welcome back," he said simply. They left the temple beneath the rising stars. And as they walked, she reached for his hand, not out of need, but of choice. And he held it, not to lead, not to carry, but to walk with her. Side by side. Whole. Awake. END of Part 1.